Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Introduce myself. My name is Melvin Berliana Mirullah. My NPM is 224111025. I'm from Management 22I class. Today on a presentation about a measure of the spread of group data. The definition. What is a spread of group data? A measure of A measure of group data dispersion is a statistic used to measure the extent to which values in a group of data are dispersed or spread out. In the case of data that is already grouped or organized into intervals or classes, we cannot use single data dispersion measures such as range or standard deviation because specific information about individual value is not available. Therefore, for group data, measure of group data dispersion of group data dispersion are used. Some of these involve the concept of interval and class frequency. The characteristic. The group data spread measure has several characteristics that reflect the distribution of values in the group data distribution. Here are some common characteristics of group data distribution measure. Quartile base. The first is quartile base. Interquartile range or IQR measure the distribution of values between the first quartile or Q1 and the third quartile Q3 of a group data distribution. IQR gives an idea of the distribution of values that lie in the center of distribution. And then we have interval classification orientates. The measure of the spread of group data depend on the predefined interval or classification. Hence, the former takes into account the class boundaries and frequencies of each class. And then we have usage frequencies and mid-class values. In calculating the variance or standard deviation for group data, the frequencies and center values of the classes are considered. This gives appropriate weighting to certain values in the distribution. And then provide information about skewness or asymmetry. A longer distribution on either side of the median can be reflected in measure of the spread of group data. For example, values that are spread whether on the higher side of the median may lead to a large IQR. Understanding this feature helps to analyze or research in choosing a measure of spread that best fit the distribution of the group data being observed. Understanding the distribution of group data is important in analyzing the characteristic of the distribution and making accurate statistical inference. Group data spread measures provide valuable information about the various And then the benefit. Group data spread measures provide valuable information about the variation and spread of values within a group data distribution. The benefits of using group data spread measures involve further understanding of the distribution of values within interval or classes. Here are some of the key benefits. Identification. The first is identification of variability within group. The group data spread measure help identify how far the values within each interval or class are scattered from the mean and center of the distribution. This help in assessing the level of variability in the data group. And And then detection of quartile position and outliers. Measures of dispersion, such as IKR, provide information about the position of the first quartile and third quartile. This helps in detecting outlier or extreme values that may affect statistical interpretation. And then we have selection of an appropriate statistical model. In statistical modeling for group data, an understanding of the data distribution helps in the selection of an appropriate model. Analytical methods that take into account the variation in the data can lead to more accurate estimates. And then we have comparison between group or categories. Measure of the spread of group data allow comparison of the spread between different group or categories. This can be useful in comparative analysis between the different subpopulation or variables. Determination of measurement or data collecting quality. By understanding the distribution of group data, researchers or analysts can evaluate the quality of measurement of data collection. High variability may indicate an uncertainty or flaws in measurement. And then determining process or system stability. In a business or industrial context, measure of group data spread can be used to evaluate how well a process or system is performing. High variability may indicate instability in the process. Understanding data distribution. Group data spread measure help analyze understand the distribution of data in more detail, such as the spread of values across different classes or intervals. And a good understanding of the measure of dispersion of group data is important for making information decision and supporting accurate statistical analysis. Applying an appropriate measure of dispersion can improve understanding of the spread of value in a group data distribution and provide deeper insight into the characteristic of the group. And the conclusion. In conclusion, measures of group data spread are statistical tools that give an idea of the spread of values in a cluster distribution. Some measure of group data distribution, such as interquartile range or IKR, group data range, and quartile variation, provide information about the variation and distribution of values within a class or interval. Here are some important points to conclude. The first is variability and distribution. Measure of group data spread help in understanding the variation and distribution of values within a predefined class or interval. And then identification of quartile position. Some measures, such as IKR, help identify the position of the first quartile and third quartile, providing insight into the distribution of the data at the center. And then outlier detection. Measures of the distribution of group data can help in detecting extreme value or outliers, which can affect statistical interpretation. Comparison between group or category. Measure of dispersion allow comparison of the distribution between different group or categories, supporting comparative analysis between different subpopulation or variables. Selection of an appropriate statistical model. In statistical modeling for group data, an understanding of the distribution of the data help in the selection of an appropriate and accurate model. Data quality assessment. The distribution of data can also be used to assess the quality of measurement or data collection, especially by looking at the variability content in the distribution. Process or system stability evaluation. In a business or industrial context, measure of group data spread can be used to evaluate how well a process or system is performing and how stable it is. A careful understanding of the measure of dispersion of group data plays an important role in analyzing and interpreting the cluster data. This calculation confirms that proper of use measures of dispersion can provide better insight into the spread of value in a group data distribution and help in making more informed decisions. That's all the presentation of the material that I brought. I apologize if there is a word or pronounce error. Of is if I apologize if there is a word or pronounce I said wrong in English. I'm very sorry and I end. Good night and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.